So, Elon Musk just crashed Bitcoin. I just got back home. I know it's late, but I wanted to do this video because I'm sure there's a few people panicking when you're looking at the chart. And I just wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to, you know, while I'm sipping my bedtime tea. And if you like tea, then this is one called Taylor's Bedtime Tea from the UK. Pretty damn good. So check it out. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this Elon Musk debacle, and why it happened and what you should do about it. So I've had about 9% of my portfolio. This is going to be a bit more of a chilled video. So about 9% of my portfolio was sitting in cash, waiting for the 200-day moving average to cross up on the 200-week moving average, which is pretty bullish. And as this was happening, you can bring this up on any chart. As it was happening, it sort of, if you extrapolated the direction of the lines out, it sort of looked like around the 20th is when this would happen. Now, in order for anything like this to happen, you need a very, very, very strong impulse to the upside. So I was kind of expecting a dip, and then the stock market started dipping, and then, you know, things started slowing down for August. And I was like, okay, I think this might be the opportunity to wait for this moment. And the reason why, you know, you might be thinking, why do you even have cash in your portfolio if you're a Bitcoin? And that's because I'm an investor first. And I have, yes, while I have the majority of my portfolio in Bitcoin, I still have other positions that are designed to mine fiat. And, you know, the way some people mine fiat is to go work a job. The way that I mine fiat is through the markets. And so, yeah, I built up about a 9% position, something like 9.2, something like that, in cash. And it was sitting, waiting to execute. And I started executing over the last, you know, 2 or 3 days. And then I saw this happen today. And I decided to finally execute the whole amount at roughly 26.3, something like that. So let's talk about what actually happened. So firstly, there is no legal evidence at this point that Elon Musk sold any Bitcoin, or Elon Musk's SpaceX sold any Bitcoin. What happened was that Bitcoin Magazine put out a tweet, and they basically said, breaking, because everything urgent starts with breaking. Elon Musk's SpaceX sold all its $373 million of Bitcoin, source Wall Street Journal. Okay, once you've been around this game a little bit, you understand that if anything is sourced at the Wall Street Journal, you've got to start looking into it a little bit in more detail. And very quickly what was discovered was that what the Wall Street Journal article actually said was that SpaceX wrote down the value of the Bitcoin that it owns last year. Not this year, not just now, last year. And the market proceeded to dump. I think Bitcoin dumped like 9% in the space of an hour, something like that. And we're going to talk a little bit of conspiracy here. I have no evidence to support anything I'm about to say, but I'm just going to talk to you as an investor and someone who has been around markets and rarely sees coincidences as actual coincidences. So, Wall Street Journal puts out this alert. Bitcoin starts dumping. It causes a cascade in shorts, and the market starts dumping, taking advantage of the lowest volume in its history, in Bitcoin's history. And so the price starts to dump, as it should. Now, is it convenient that the Wall Street Journal does this with, I mean, they're telling if they're telling the truth, they're telling the truth. Last year, they wrote this down last year, right? And there's several reasons why, as a corporation, you would write down the value of assets. It makes sense. So, is it convenient that this article came out and caused a cascading in prices for Bitcoin the night before an opinion is due on the Grayscale versus SEC lawsuit regarding the spot Bitcoin ETF? So yes, on the 18th, we are due a result, an opinion on the Grayscale versus SEC lawsuit. This opinion doesn't automatically grant Grayscale's GBTC conversion to a spot Bitcoin ETF, but it certainly goes a long way in throwing a sucker punch to the SEC based on all of the drawbacks that they've been putting in this ETF's place. And then you factor in the fact that you've got a slew of other heavy hitters, including BlackRock, also filing a spot ETF application, which is due, and it has several deadlines up until next March. Is it convenient that the price suddenly drops 9% the night before this opinion is due? Is that convenient? Is that coincidental? Or could it be that someone has some information, or someone just has a hunch that it is going to lean towards Grayscale, the opinion tomorrow will lean towards Grayscale, and they decided to take advantage of the lowest volume in history and cause a bearish cascade in the markets to acquire some more Bitcoin? Is it also convenient or coincidental that a day ago, Coinbase is now fully regulated by the CFTC as an exchange, which is one of the issues that SEC had, saying until it was unregulated? When you start adding up the dots, it doesn't look coincidental. Now, we'll find out tomorrow, less than 12 hours away from when this opinion piece is due on this case between the SEC and Grayscale. So we'll find out. But I certainly took this opportunity to invest the other 9% of my portfolio that was sitting in cash. We are also days away from the 200-day moving average crossing up on the 200-week moving average. And this sounds like a perfect moment to cause a dip. Just when everyone is no one's really trading, no one's doing anything, the volumes are really low, suddenly you can go and short the market 5,000 Bitcoin or whatever, leveraged up 10x, and you can start causing some real damage in the markets because of the illiquidity in the markets at this moment in time. So, is this a coincidence? Is it convenient that it happened at this moment in time? And I would argue that this is foretelling. If I had to guess, again, I don't have any information, I don't have anything like that. If I had to guess, this is foretelling that we're going to see some positive news tomorrow. Maybe even by the time you see this video on the 18th of August, we're going to see some positive news regarding Bitcoin and Grayscale and GBTC and its ETF. Its spot Bitcoin ETF application to convert GBTC into a spot ETF. That's what I think is going on. Now, here's the question. What should you do about this? Well, let me ask you, do you understand what Bitcoin is? Do you understand the scarcity of this asset? apologies if the lighting sucks. I can't really tell because it's nighttime right now, and I've just got one of those lights on in the corner because bright lights annoy me at night. So the question is really, what do you do? And I want to implore you, implore you to acquiring one Bitcoin as fast as humanly possible. If possible, I want you to drop everything and get to one Bitcoin. Why? Sure, the price might go down from here. It might stay down for a few months. But you've got the most finite asset in human history. You've got BlackRock, GBTC, Fidelity, ARK, everyone filing for a spot application, spot ETF application. And now you've got, you know, what some would call market manipulation at this moment in time, right? A day before it's supposed to happen, you know, a day after Coinbase gets fully regulated as an exchange by the CFTC. This is an opportunity. That's how I want you to see it. I don't want you to see this as a moment to be afraid, because the news was debunked within a matter of hours. The news was debunked within a matter of hours. And while, yes, I'm absolutely guessing that we see some positive news tomorrow based on this happening today, I don't know. But what I do know is that it is coming. Whether it comes tomorrow, the day after, the week after, a couple months from now, it is coming. I firmly believe that we will have a spot Bitcoin ETF by the halving. By the halving, we will have a fully operational spot Bitcoin ETF. That's what I believe. And I think that you should take this opportunity to thank Elon Musk for potentially not even being involved in anything and allowing his name to be used by the algorithms that trade his name, trade on his name and the associated news based on his name, in giving you an opportunity to buy Bitcoin once again below the 200-week moving average, the 4-year moving average. I don't believe the prices will stay below the 200-week moving average for a long period of time. I think we're having a slow August, and I think that will turn around the Jackson Hole speech, which is on the 25th. So that's, you know, 8 days from now. From today, the 17th, 8 days. And I think that you should seriously, instead of being involved in the drama of what's going on and what everyone is panicking about, you should be looking at this as a major gift of a buying opportunity. If you are someone who is afraid of what the news tells you, I want to take a second to remind you that the news is called programming for a particular reason. It is not there to help you, it's there to program you. And the fact that the algorithms have caused this level of drop says quite a lot here. But the main thing that you need to focus on is that this is the scarcest asset known to humanity. This is an opportunity to own the underlying platform that you've never ever had before. Think about the day that real estate was invented as an asset class, and you could own a piece of real estate, not property, not the actual building, but a piece of the overall asset class. So this would be akin to every single property that would ever be built in human history being built on the land space of Manhattan or London, you know, or Singapore. Every single property to be ever built is built on there. What would you rather own? Do you want to own a property, or do you want to own a piece of that land? I want to own a piece of that land, and that's what Bitcoin gives us. It gives us the opportunity to own a piece of the network. It's like owning a piece of the internet. Would you rather own a piece of the internet and then have Apple, Microsoft, all these companies come to you and say, hey, can I build on your piece of the internet and I'll pay you for that forever? I'm taking that any day rather than speculating to see who wins between Apple, Microsoft, IBM, and all these other companies. I don't care, right? I want to own a piece of the underlying network, and this is the first time in human history that we've managed to do that. It's also the first time in human history that we have an asset that industries can be built on top of. So it is late at night, but I wanted to put this video out because I don't want people to panic. I know there's people trying to figure out what the hell happened. In the grand scheme of things, nothing really happened. An article came out that said SpaceX sold, or not even sold, wrote down the value of its Bitcoin last year, and the market triggered a bearish cascade, and the price dropped 9% in 44 minutes. And everyone debunked it very, very quickly. And now you have an opportunity to buy Bitcoin underneath the 200-week moving average. This is why, regardless of what you do, I want to implore you to get to 1 Bitcoin. This is a huge opportunity to do that. I want you to get to 1 Bitcoin as quick as possible, because the opportunity, the time is running out for that. And if you haven't, you will regret it. Remember, this is also the first time in history where if you have young children, if you have young grandchildren, this moment, or if you plan to have children, this moment in history will determine their ability to have access to the asset. Your decision today will dictate their quality of life tomorrow, and you can't just print more Bitcoin. It's not like they can just go start a business and start tapping into, liquidity flowing around the world. There is only 21 million Bitcoin. So take this opportunity. The decision you make today will impact your family and your progeny for generations to come. Take this opportunity, say thank you to Elon Musk, and get to 1 Bitcoin. I also want to point out that I would never ever be surprised anymore if a growth company like SpaceX does sell all of its Bitcoin, or Tesla does sell all of its Bitcoin. In fact, I don't think you'll ever see a growth company hold more than 4% of its balance sheet in Bitcoin, because it doesn't make sense. Imagine if you were an investor in SpaceX and their job was to get to Mars, right? And build these rockets and do all this other stuff, cool stuff. You would believe in that. You're believing in Elon's vision, and you are believing in SpaceX's ability to create this. Now, what would happen if the CEO told you, hey, we've got your capital and we've got your earnings, and instead of giving you a dividend, we're just going to put it into Bitcoin and let it sit there? It signals something. It signals that the corporation has no idea what to do with that capital. It signals that they've run out of new innovations that they could be reinvesting into, which is what, for the purpose of the mission, which is what you're supposed to be doing. And as an investor, I would want my capital back so I can decide what to do with it. And especially once an ETF is approved, because then it's just 2 clicks. I don't need to worry about wallets. I don't need to worry about exchanges. I don't need to worry about transferring it. I don't need to do anything. I need to sell down my position in one thing and acquire the other thing, which would be the spot ETF. And then I reduce my risk of Elon or the team there being, mismanaging the Bitcoin that they're holding on the balance sheet, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think a corporation is going to put more than, a few single-digit percentages of their balance sheet into Bitcoin, and I can't see it being a long-term holder anyway. Every time it goes past a certain number, I think they will sell down and utilize that capital to make the investments they need to get the vision moving forward. So that's my belief on corporations. I think MicroStrategy was a one and done, and I don't think you'll see that again, right? Michael Saylor will go down as one of the most smartest, genius people in the world for making that happen and making MicroStrategy a de facto Bitcoin ETF before an ETF was approved. I personally do not think that it will happen again. It's a unique opportunity. So, take this opportunity to acquire the Bitcoin that you need to acquire and get to 1 Bitcoin. And remember, there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up and ignore all this bullshit. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy. Have a beautiful evening, and let's see tomorrow what happens with Grayscale and the SEC if we get an answer.